Yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. We just finished up with Dana White's Contender Series. It's 10 o'clock Central Time. We've got a UFC card coming up this Saturday, UFC Vegas 60. So you guys know what that means. It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We're going to break down all 14 of these cards from a statistical and tape study perspective. We're going to look at some time props. We're going to look at some money lines. We're going to find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this event. Coming off a win last week. Very, very, very small week for me last week, you guys. I think I had like something like 6 or 7 units in bets. However, most of those were on the fights that got canceled and shuffled around. After all the shuffling the last minute, I decided not to dive back in and get my money out of there. So I only had 1.1 units in track bets. 1 unit was on the Elise Reed money line. We cashed that at plus 150. And 0.1 units was on Anton the Pleasure Man Turkali to win in round 3, which, I mean, we didn't even get past the sniffing butt stage on that one. So that was absolutely not cashed. But hey, up 1.4 units tracked last week. Didn't try to force any spots. It was not a spot that I liked. A lot of fights that I did not like from a gambling perspective last week. But boy, did we finally get one right, you guys. The greasy 4-leg parlay cashes at better than plus 700. If you did it on DraftKings like I did and took that 20% profit boost that they were offering, you got it at plus 850. And it was the Elise Reed money line, cash it. The Haley Alatang money line, cash it. The Walker Kudalaba fight doesn't start round 3, cash it. And Khamzat Chimaev inside the distance, cash it. We finally got one. We finally didn't have the rug pulled out from us at the very last second after cashing the first 3 legs. So up 1.4 units, cash the greasy 4-leg parlay. The ass shaving of the week, there was none. You guys, I had Li Jingliang over Tony Ferguson. I thought that he was just going to absolutely kill Tony. And Tony looked terrible, but against Nate Diaz, not against Li Jingliang. And people were asking me, what are you going to change it to? Look, sometimes the best thing to do when they change the fights on you and they make all these last-second changes is just to say, I'm going to stay away, because we like to do a little more than a couple hours of research on one fight before we put some bets down. So when they shifted all at the last minute, new opponents, they weren't training for these opponents. It was just a good spot to stay away. So, yeah, great week last week, but we got to keep it rolling this week. And this week, I've got over 13 units in tracked action. So this is a much different card, in my opinion, from a gambling perspective. And I am going to be neck deep in the pool this week. And it's going to be sink or swim for your Uncle Weezy. But I'm looking to swim like a champion, my friends, and stack a bunch of winners. So let's have you guys come along for the ride with your Uncle Weezy, and let's figure out some ways to make some money this week. Let's see who is in here in the chat. And the very first one, my God, ring a ding, ding. Our guy, Lou Sasshole, dropping the $10 donation on his Uncle Weezy, keeping the lights on here in Uncle Weezy's studio, paying for the cold meds that I'll unquestionably be needing after today as I'm getting sick here. But I appreciate you, Lou. You're always hanging out in here, always liking my Twitter posts, always doing a lot of funny shit on Twitter, and I appreciate you, brother, for hanging out and for the donation. Thanks for hanging out, man. And we got obnoxious American MILF #1 saying Yanni shit the bed tonight. He only got 1 bet right, went 0 for 3 on his parlay, and cashed Paul Shaughnessy a shit ton of tickets. He probably cashed Martian a bunch of tickets too, because Martian's been fading him every week. This dude's run is incredible. I got to tell you guys, a lot of people are shitting on Yanni the Greek right now, but you try to miss 18 out of 20 fucking bets. It's almost impossible to do, even if you're throwing dartboards, even if you're trying to fuck up. It's almost mathematically impossible to lose that many bets. And I mean, he's laying juice in some of these bets. It's incredible. So I see a lot of people talking shit about Yanni, but dude, you couldn't miss 24 out of 26 bets if you tried. So I would suggest you keep your mouth shut and let the man go on what could be the most impressive gambling streak, winning or losing, that we've seen on the television in some years here. This guy is on some kind of a roll, and he has got a beautiful smile. Love his smile lights up the room. So I'm always going to be a big fan of Yanni the Greek. I'm also Greek. Us Greeks got to stick together. But my God, the run that he has had is absolutely unprecedented. And then I'm telling my man Lou, thank you so much. Bob Spikerman's in the room saying, Uncle Weezy, you're the man, bro. Thanks. I appreciate you, Bob, checking in from Europe. We got Gogo Flamingo saying, put Fat Collier in multiple parlays. And now I lay in bed waiting for the sound of an orange bag being dragged along the concrete outside. Uncle Weezy is coming for me, and I deserve the beating. Yeah, I stayed away from that fight. But you know what? It wasn't the worst bet. I mean, I thought that fight could have been stopped like 4 or 5 different times. I thought the doctor might stop it in between rounds. Didn't even look like Chris wanted to be there after round 1. But that's heavyweight fights. That was one of the best fights of the year, honestly. That was wild. You very rarely see comebacks like that. The kid on the Contender Series had a great comeback today after getting his ass shaved for the entire first round. And that's what Fat Barnett did. Got Fat Collier with the ground and pound. What an amazing fight. That was one of the best fights of the year. I'm really glad I had no money on that fight, you guys. I am so glad I had no money on that fight. But yeah, congratulations to everybody that cashed tickets on Barnett. And I know that a bunch of people lost a lot of money on Fat Collier. And look, it is what it is. It wasn't the worst bet in the world. It wasn't necessarily an orange bag beating bet, but man, these heavyweight fights, they're high variance, man, and you got to really tread lightly. Prince of Mischief saying, ass-shaving prediction, Sandhagen. Not 100% sure on this one, but let's find out. Let's find out, man. Let's find out. We're going to find out at the end of the show. Dan Goldstein saying, Brady coined the term, but I'm going to run with it and ask, who else got Greeked today? I barely escaped with a profit, but Yanni and his 53 front teeth tried to take it all from me. Well, I actually had my first bet of the year on tonight's Contender Series. I haven't had any bets this year on the Contender Series, but I did a 2.6 unit parlay, and I parlayed Ikram Aliskerov with Daniel Zellhuber. So now that Aliskerov won, I've got a 2.6 unit bet on Zellhuber at minus 130. So I'm loving that. Can maybe hedge out of that a little bit if I feel a little bit nervous about it, but I think Zellhuber gets the job done here, and he's a very interesting prospect. But man, Yanni is on poor Yanni, dude. This guy, man, I can't imagine being on television and giving out that many bets that just didn't cash. Gogo saying, sub Prince, yeah, it's hard to imagine you, Dong, getting this one done. Tristan saying that Prince of Mischief, nah, bro. 100% Sadiq Youssef will be the ass shaving this week. Well, he won't be, Tristan, because his fight got called off, man. Giga Chikadze had to pull out of that fight, and I don't think they have found an opponent. They were on Tapology. They were still listing 15 fights, but now they've got it down to 14. So, yeah, it looks like they're going to stick with the 14 fights and try to find Sadiq another fight somewhere down the road. Maybe they'll remake the Chikadze fight after Giga is healthy again. And my guy Victor De Jesus saying, oi, yes, what's up, Unc, and what's up, chat? Let's break these bookies. Let's do it, man. My ass-shaving prediction is Zellhuber to have an impressive debut. Yeah, he's looking good, man. I am a fan of that kid. Gogo Flamingo saying, on my book, Sandhagen by KO is plus 550. Your donkey get tired and need a knee. First time going 5 rounds. Yeah, that's all a good point. And man, Corey throws from odd angles, dude. And since we haven't seen Song go 5 rounds yet, and I'm not exactly sure how his conditioning has looked late in fights. I got to go back and look at that a little bit closer. But Corey Sandhagen's conditioning is never in question, and he trains it at elevation, so you know he's going to be ready for this one. And his last 2 fights were 5-round fights against absolute killers. And my guy Daz Files is in the room saying, "Oi, let's go." Sandhagen beat Dillashaw in my book. Yeah, I thought he did too. Andy G saying, "Oi," and Andy G saying, "I'm not that guy to crap on someone ever because I feel bad that he's on this cold streak, but I faded Yanni and Cash. I've never seen a run this bad. Hashtag fade the teeth, man. Yeah, fade the Greek, fade the teeth, fade that voice of his. Yeah, unbelievable. But look, you guys, you know that I'm an analytics guy. You know, I'm looking at, especially if you watch probability, you know, when we're looking at those time props, it's so important to know where the benchmarks are, to know where the analytics are, to see, you know, whether certain divisions are finishing at a higher rate this year than they normally do, whether you can expect regression and things like that. But every fight is independent. And as a statistician, as somebody who's studied math, independence means that, yes, there's a benchmark. Heavyweight fights finish about 63% of the time. Women's strawweight fights finish about 29.9% of the time, right? But just because you have that big sample size of data and we have these benchmarks, we still have to take into account the stylistic matchup. You know, is it striker versus grappler? You know, are there areas where certain fighters are very dangerous, and where fighter A is dangerous is fighter B weak there, and vice versa? We've got to look at everything. And when you're being a pure analytics better and doing it on contender series fights where these guys don't have a big sample size to look at, and then you don't even have stats from these fights because they're in regional scene organizations, you know, it's just not working out for him this year. And he probably is doing better on the pay-per-view cards and stuff where he actually does have, you know, reliable, robust data sets to lean on, but he doesn't have that in the contender series. And this guy doesn't watch tape. So this is what's happening to him. Prince of Mischief saying, yeah, the knee is vicious. I'll probably just do Sandhagen over 1.5 single game parlay. Got that. Do y'all know if Yanni is bad every year or if this is the first time doing so bad? My bookies don't have DWCS. I want to be the fade Yanni train too. Dude, I think that you pretty much have to I would probably fucking tail him next week because he could be fucking trying to lose and he couldn't lose this many bets. I mean, eventually, you know, he's gonna hit some bets. I mean, but man, I don't know, man. I'm just glad I cashed that Ali Scarab ticket. Travis M saying, "Oi, where's my uncle?" And M.A. Laren saying, "Oi, here we go again for the check flapjacks, Weezy. Let's go, man." And we got Andy G saying, "This looks like a competitive card, Unc, but let's stack them high. Let's get it, man." M.A. Laren saying, "If I may make a suggestion request, could you please point out per match or list at the end, like your tracked bets, any potential props to boost other bets, tier parlays, etc." Yeah, as a matter of fact, on the banners, I have all my tracked bets, which I will show you just after we finish the last fight of the night tonight. So yes, I will be doing that for you, M.A. Laren. And he says, "Thanks, Unc. I appreciate you, man." And we got Nigel Lee saying, "What's up to Dan Goldstein and what's up to Uncle Weezy? Appreciate you, Nigel Lee." And ring a ding ding. My guy Andy G in here, keeping the lights on in the studio. $10 donation. Appreciate all the hard work as always, brother. I appreciate you, Andy G, being in here, supporting. Love you guys, man. This really helps me out when you guys donate to the show, and I appreciate everybody that does it, and I appreciate all of you that are just here rocking with us on Tuesday night, man. Hunter Driscoll saying, "Finally catch a live stream. Been watching you and Brady for a year, and finally," yes, I appreciate you. Welcome to the live stream, Hunter. We're gonna have a great time tonight. We got Dan Goldstein saying, "Nigel Lee, what's up, brother? You got Greek today." John Jones saying, "I never missed." You never did miss. Undefeated, John Jones. Nigel Lee saying, "I left that shit alone," and I've been leaving it alone too, man. And we got Blood Money MMA Bet saying, "Weezy, what's up, brother? Good to see you in here." We got my guy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast saying, "Yo, Weezy, what's up, Clint? Good to have you in here, brother." Sean saying, "What's up to Clint?" We got Bob saying, "Got burned big time on Fat Collier as well." Yeah, that's rough, man. Shower Time with Steve says spinning fat kick. We didn't get the spinning fat kick knockout from Chris Barnett, but we got the ground and pound knockout. The fat was really flying in there, though. That was a hell of a fight, man. Like I said, one of my favorite fights of the year, and it's hard not to like Barnett. I mean, even when he does crush your parlays, it's hard not to root for this dude. He's a funny guy. Andy G saying Clinton the house. Now it's a party. And Sadiq Usman has a replacement? God damn it. Are you fucking kidding me? They're still not showing it on Tapology. Well, we will not be breaking down a Sadiq Yusuf fight tonight because I don't even know who his opponent would be. Let's have a look at UFC stats here. I'll bring it up. And I'll share my screen with you guys after we're done talking to the chat here. But, yeah, still nothing on UFC stats for Sadiq Yusuf yet. My guy Mushroom saying, oh, yes, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Sandhagen round 5 at Angel Lee, at Das Files, at Moneybank Locks, at Dan Goldstein, at Sean V. What's up, D-Gens? And Tristan saying, just for your information, I appreciate that. We won't be breaking down that fight because I don't know who it is, but I know that they were looking for a replacement, but I don't know who's going to be fucking stupid enough to take a Sadiq Yusuf fight on 4 days' notice, man, and try to make weight on 3 days' notice. That would be bad for your career. Dan saying, all I need to know about that fight night main event is who Yanni has his silver dollars on. And we got Bob saying, what? I got the same parlay, Weezy. Zellhuber, you're going to cash that shit. Let's get it, man. Let's go, because I loved Ali Skarov, and at minus 410, I knew that it was just going to go to like minus 600. So I figured might as well throw him in there with one of my favorite picks of the week. And I looked at all the lines, and I wanted to go with Pyfer, but he was also like minus 400. So I brought it down to like minus 220, 240, I think is where I got Zellhuber at. Sadiq Yusuf versus Don Shanis? Who the hell is Don Shanis? All right. Thanks for the information, Tristan. Appreciate you giving us the heads up on that, man. Yeah, and Bob saying this one is sick, and it is, man. And Nigel Lee saying, Mushroom, my guy, I've been showing your post to my friends. They have now dubbed you the Lunch King. Your legend is growing here in Rhode Island. Dude, if you guys don't follow at mushroom_Philly, this dude is constantly posting his food that he gets for lunch on Twitter, and he makes me hungry constantly. This guy eats, dude, he eats like he's going to be dead in like less than a year, man. Like, I'm talking his cholesterol has probably got to be through the fucking roof, but mad respect, man. This guy is eating like a pound of bacon every day. Got a live resin vape for dessert every single day. I mean, big respect to my guy Mushroom, man. Justin Villegas saying, Ferguson, a good guy. He needs a win. Either give him Clay Guida or boom. Mandy Boom. I want to see Tony Ferguson get one more win. Let's put him in there with Mandy Bohm. I think he could fucking destroy Mandy Bohm, and I would love to see that fight. Great call, Justin Villegas. Dan saying Aspen Lad, a.k.a. Fat Spin Lad, is my milk bag fade of the week. Right now, she's quivering in a sauna somewhere. Fade the cheeks. Mushroom making jewelry and listening to our dude preach the gospel of the better. Yes, sir. Bob Spikerman saying Loma over, Pyfer under, Cosce under, Philly over, Motta under, Agapova under, Zellhuber money line, Pyfer money line. Damn, you guys, just too many spots, so I guess I'll just have to bet all of them. Also, McMann, good dog. I agree with all those spots. All right, listen, let's go. Let's get it. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here, which I forgot to do last week. And I'm going to get these stats up here. As always, you can join my Patreon to get these stats and get access to them early. It's only $5 a month. I've been scraping together these stats for over a year, giving them out for free. I figured some people might want to support me. Just give me $5 a month and you get early access to the stats. But as always, when I do just the tip on Tuesday nights, I make these stats available to you guys for free. The link is in the description of the video. The link to Probability on the MMA Engine in the description of the video. The link to the Patreon in the description of the video. The link to Stat Diggers in the description of the video. So we're going to start out with the curtain jerker tonight, and I'm going to get my notes up on the screen here. And I did my notes in a certain order, and then, of course, UFC changed the fight order like they do like 5 times every week. So this is the order that I wrote it in. So that's the way you guys are getting it. Like it or lump it. But we're going to start with Cam VanCamp versus Nik Motta. And we've got Nik Motta, the minus 192 favorite here. Cam VanCamp plus 167. And the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 175. So when we look at the measurables here, I'm giving the advantage to VanCamp as he's got a 4-inch height advantage, a 4-inch reach advantage, and is a switch stance fighter while Motta is orthodox. That being said, this fight is at 155, and Cam VanCamp hasn't fought at 155 since April of 2018. So we're going to definitely need to see how Cam looks on the scale here. When it comes to experience, the advantage also goes to VanCamp as he's got 7 more professional fights, over 50 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's been the busier fighter, fighting 23 times in 8.5 years, while Nik has fought 16 times in over a 10-year career. So Nik has a slight UFC experience edge, though, with 1 more fight and almost 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the advantage to VanCamp once again. Cam has the better finish rate as a pro, 87% for Cam, 67% for Motta. And he's also the more diverse finisher as Cam has 9 wins by sub, 4 by knockout, while all of Nik Motta's 8 finish wins are by knockout. Cam has also been more durable as he's been finished in 3 of 6 losses, 2 by knockout, 1 by sub, while Motta has been finished in all 4 of his pro losses, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. So you got to give VanCamp the advantage in both categories there. Now, when it comes to the striking, the advantage definitely goes to Motta. It's pretty evident from the career stats that, you know, we have available that this should be a striker versus a grappler matchup. All of Motta's finish wins are by knockout, and only 4 of VanCamp's 13 finish wins are by knockout. Motta's got a ton of power in his left hook, and when he connects, it's brutal. VanCamp is moving down to 155, so his durability could be in question if it's a bad weight cut, and Motta hits like a truck, and we saw VanCamp get his chin checked by Fialho in his last fight. VanCamp showed 29.17% striking defense in his debut, and that is a bad recipe for success against a guy who has as much power as Motta does. In the grappling, I'm going to give the advantage to VanCamp. Cam's a very slick grappler with good chokes. He's got 9 submission victories in his career. Motta does have solid takedown defense, though, and we didn't see Cam go for any takedowns against Fialho in his debut, which is very worrisome. That being said, I do think if this goes to the ground, Cam will be the more likely guy to threaten with submissions. But look, when VanCamp was fighting Fialho, it's very clear what Fialho likes to do, right? And Cam just fought his fight, stood in front of him, chucking bombs, and eventually he got clipped. And the first time he got clipped, he was out like a light. So that was some piss poor fight IQ right there. And Motta is a guy who you really have to worry about his power. So I don't like this matchup for VanCamp because he hasn't shown me from the little bit of regional scene footage that I've seen, he's not this great wrestler who's out there, you know, just spamming takedown attempts and working hard to get it to the grappling. You know, he's willing to stand in front of his opponent and throw. And if he does that here, that's going to be a big time problem. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Motta. So let's look at the numbers here. We can see the 1.44 ratio and the 19.5 total fights to only 3 for VanCamp. So if you look at the wins side by side, I like the fact that Motta was fighting in CFFC, 864, and Shutu, while VanCamp was fighting in smaller promotions. Got to give Motta the edge here in the strength of schedule, and he's definitely fought the better competition at the UFC level. So in summary, I'm giving VanCamp the measurables advantage, the experience advantage, the finish stats and durability, and grappling advantages, while I give Motta the striking and the strength of schedule advantages. We need to see VanCamp on the scales as he hasn't fought at 155 since 2018. I like Motta to win by KO, but I don't think I'd lay minus 225 on the money line on Motta, who just got slept by a 38-year-old grappler in Jim Miller. If the Motta KO line is juicy enough, I'll take a look at it. But at the moment, I think the best bet might be the money line on VanCamp, actually, if he makes weight with no issue, that is. Because you do see a lot of, VanCamp's got the measurables advantage. He's got the experience advantage, the finish stats and durability advantage. He's the better grappler. So there's reasons to like VanCamp here, but what I don't like is that striking defense, the fact that he keeps his chin up in the air and that he's willing to exchange with guys like Andre Fialho, who's just like a 170-pound version of Nik Motta. So, yeah, I think Motta wins this one, and I think he wins it by knockout. So the next fight, you guys, is going to be Antonio Gravely against Javid Basharat, otherwise known as the Snow Leopard. So let me get that one up here. We got Tony Gravely is the underdog here at plus 130. Javid Basharat at minus 150. And the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 145. Let me get some water here. I apologize. I'm really stuffed up, you guys. I'm definitely getting sick. Probably going to be a mess by tomorrow. I can just feel it coming on. But that doesn't matter, man. I'm like the goddamn postal service, dude. It'll come rain, come snow, come COVID, come whatever. Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock is my time to talk about these UFC fights with you guys. So let's fucking go. Gravely Basharat. Great fight, you guys. Measurables advantage is going to Javid Basharat. Javid's 4 inches taller, 3 years younger. He's a switch stance fighter while Gravely is orthodox. Both dudes have a 69-inch reach and fight out of solid camps. American top team for Gravely, London shoot fighters for Javid. And we just saw Javid's brother, who fights a lot like Javid, get his contract on the Contender Series today. The experience advantage definitely goes to Tony Gravely, as we can see right here. Tony's got 18 more professional fights. He's got over 250 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's been a pro fighter for 6 more months. In addition to that, Gravely's been the far busier fighter, as he's fought an average of 4.25 times per year, while Javid has fought less than twice a year. So Gravely also has the UFC experience advantage with 5 more UFC fights and 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I got to give the advantage to Javid here. Javid's got the far better career finish rate at 92% compared to 56% for Gravely, and is the more equal opportunity finisher, as he's got 6 submissions and 5 knockouts, while Gravely's got 10 knockouts and 3 submissions. Basharat's undefeated, so he's never been finished, but Gravely has not shown durability thus far, as he's been finishing 6 of his 7 pro losses, 5 times by submission, once by KO. When it comes to the striking, right, I'm giving Javid Basharat the advantage. If this were if it were a kickboxing match, I think Javid would win, right? He switches stances, he uses a ton of different weapons, and he's very explosive. At the UFC level, he's shown a 2.92 significant strike differential, which is fantastic, while Gravely also has a great differential at positive 0.88. Basharat's been far more defensively responsible thus far, with a 65% striking defense, compared to only 47.5 for Gravely. Tony's been knocked down once and knocked out once at the UFC level. That being said, Tony throws with serious power. He's got great wrestling, and he uses forward pressure to back up his opponents against the cage, and then he headhunts while they're there. And if he misses while he's headhunting, he might use those big head strikes to kind of set up a takedown attempt. Tony also spends about 29% of his UFC fights at striking range. So his power numbers are that much more impressive, with 4 knockdowns in only 201 significant strikes landed. That's 2%. Basharat might be the better minute winner at range, but I'm not sure this fight's going to spend a lot of time at striking range. When we get to the grappling, I'm giving the advantage to Gravely here. And I'll scroll down here so you guys can see. Tony's putting up video game numbers in the grappling stats. Excluding his Dana White Contender Series fight, where we don't have control time stats, Tony's fights are in control time positions 71% of the time, and Tony wins just under 80% of those control time positions. So Tony's getting 6.65 takedowns per 15 minutes and 46.6% control time for, while yielding just 12% control time against. Javid's been super efficient thus far, getting 34.3% control time for, while giving up only 0.3%. But all of that control time he got was against a trash opponent in Oran Kalan, who's just an absolute bum. If you guys remember, Oran Kalan was the loser that went out there and called Javid Basharat a terrorist and got in his face at the weigh-ins, and then went into the cage with just absolutely nothing for Javid. Got his ass shaved for like 14 minutes before Javid finally decided to put him out of his misery and finish him. So Tony doesn't want to stand against Javid. I think he's going to pressure him, back him against the fence, and throw bombs as a way to enter on his takedowns. And I think that'd be a great way for him to fight Javid, because Javid is, when you watch the tape on Javid, it just, everything that he does jumps off the screen, you know? He's very crisp with his striking. He's constantly switching stances. He's accurate. He's powerful. He mixes in takedowns, and when he does shoot for them, he's picking dudes up, throwing them down, and winding up in side controller and half guard right off the bat. And then he's got a bunch of submission wins on his resume as well, but he's a very well-rounded fighter. But Javid has excellent footwork, and he's going to need to be constantly circling so that Tony isn't able to cut off that cage and back him up against the cage. Because once he does that, that's when Tony starts throwing with power, and that's when he starts setting up his wrestling entries. Hang on just a sec, guys. Excuse me, guys. So the strength of schedule advantage goes to Gravely, as neither guy has impressive metrics thus far in the strength of schedule stats. Let me get him over here. But Gravely clearly has the advantage here with 5 UFC wins and 23 pro wins. Javid's signature win was Trevin Jones, and that is very solid. Outside of that, there isn't much besides Bezker Ravane in Octagon was, I think, 11-2 that he beat, but it's an Octagon. It's not a great promotion. In summary, Gravely's got the experience, the grappling, and the strength of schedule advantages, while Basharat's got a slight measurables advantage, the finish stats and durability advantages, and the technical striking and minute-winning capabilities in this matchup. We haven't seen Gravely yet match up against a striker of Basharat's quality with nice footwork before at the UFC level. So we'll see if Gravely can make this a grappling match. If he can, I think he wins if he doesn't gas out. I mean, you look at these last 5 names for Gravely. Munoz, grappler. Oliveira, pure grappler. Manis is a very good striker. Burchak, more of a grappler. De Freitas, grappler. So it'll be interesting to see, even though Javid's very well-rounded and he's got excellent grappling as well, his striking is so much cleaner and so much higher level than Tony's previous opponent. So I want to see how Tony deals with that cheeky footwork and stance switching of Basharat, and if he's able to kind of pressure him and get off, you know, these big strikes. Because if he does, I think that this is probably Gravely's fight. But this is one I'm having one of the hardest times to figure out, because I think that this dude, Javid Basharat, is absolutely legit, and he's got a very bright future here. And Javid is only 27 years old, so he's at the point in his career where he could still be getting better. I'm going to go with the experience and the grappling and that power in Gravely's hands. But I don't even know if I can get to the money line bet. It was at plus 168 earlier in the week. I missed that, and now I think I'm just going to stay away. But this is a fight that I like for violence as well. As we can tell here, if we look at Gravely Basharat on the prop template, we can see that the fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at 59.18% at minus 145, and that the fighter stats, are finishing at about a 66% rate. And these guys are finishing at a much higher rate than the division does. 6 of 9 fights finishing inside the distance at the UFC level, 71.5% of their pro fights finishing inside the distance. So I kind of like violence at this spot. And I like a Gravely win here, you guys. Next fight, though, is going to be my guy Lou Betya's favorite lady, Mariya Agapova, going up against Gillian Robertson. And And the lines right now are Agapova's plus 125, Gillian Robertson minus 145, and the fight doesn't go. Juiced up to minus 175 right now. The bookies and the fans are definitely predicting violence for this fight. So when it comes to the measurables, that's Agapova. She's 2 years younger, she's an inch taller, and she's got a 5-inch reach advantage. And she's a southpaw, so you got to love the Agapova measurables advantage here. The experience advantage goes to Gillian, as she's got 4 more pro fights, almost 80 more minutes in the pro cage. She's also been a busier fighter, averaging about 2.67 fights per year, while for Mariya, it's less than 2 fights a year. Mariya's actually been a pro for 6 months longer than Gillian, but she has 4 less fights. So Gillian has a big UFC experience advantage here with 7 more UFC fights and over 70 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, scroll down so you guys can see it. We've got an advantage to Robertson as well, where both fighters have 10 pro wins and both fighters have an 80% finish rate. Mariya has subbed both of her UFC wins, and Gillian has 5 submissions and 1 knockout and 1 decision at the UFC level. Gillian has been a little more durable as a pro, and in the UFC, she's been finished at a 28% rate as a pro, while for Mariya, it's 67%, and Gillian has been finished twice in 5 UFC losses, while Mariya has been finished twice in 3 UFC losses. Both have been finished once by sub, once by knockout. So Robertson definitely gets the durability edge here. The striking advantage goes to Agapova, and this is definitely a striker versus grappler matchup. Mariya is the much better stand-up. She lands at a higher percentage, 54% to about 48.5% for Gillian. She's got way more power, 0.69 knockdowns per 15 minutes compared to 0 for Gillian Robertson. She's got a positive significant strike differential of 0.19, does Agapova, while Gillian's is negative 0.39. And Agapova's striking defense is just a smidge better than Robertson's as well. Add to that to the 5-inch reach advantage that Mariya has here, and that Agapova's a southpaw, and I think Mariya wins the minutes and the moments on the feet. Mariya has 2 UFC wins. And in those wins, let me show this to you guys in the advanced stats, which is always available on the furthest left tab in the free stats that I provide for you guys here. And when we go down to Agapova, right? Is this her? Yeah. A win against Sabina Mazo and a win against Hannah Cyphers, right? Those are her 2 UFC wins. And in those wins, she was controlled for 35 seconds and 30 seconds and 0 takedown attempts and 0 takedown attempts, right? In those wins. In her 3 losses, she had faced 5 takedown attempts, 2 takedown attempts, and 7 takedown attempts. So Mariya Agapova has won every UFC fight where her opponent didn't even attempt a takedown. Every fight in the UFC that Agapova has had that she's lost, her opponents have attempted at least 1 takedown and gotten at least 1 takedown. So it's very clear that Gillian is the kind of lady who's going to go for the grappling anyway. And here's some numbers for Gillian. In her wins, right, and we've got a lot of them, Gillian's got 7 UFC wins. In those 7 wins, Gillian is 14 of 27 on her takedowns, and she's getting 66.8% control time for. She's gotten a takedown in every UFC win. In Gillian's losses, she's 4 of 17 on takedowns with only 15.7% control time for. So this is about as binary as it gets, right? If it stays on the feet, Agapova's got the accuracy. Agapova's got the power and the knockdowns. Slightly better striking defense, throwing a lot more volume. But Gillian Robertson is in control time positions, controlling her opponents 43.2% of the time, being controlled 22% of the time, which means about 65% of her fights are taking place in control time positions. Mariya Agapova, and this is very important, I want to show you guys this. So this fight with Tracy Cortez here, if you look over here, there are no control time numbers available, right? But I went back and I watched this fight. Tracy Cortez controlled Agapova for about 11 minutes out of the 15 minutes of that fight. So if you were to add another 660 seconds of control time allowed, you would get about 1,300 seconds of control time allowed in 2,600 seconds of UFC cage time. So Mariya Agapova has been absolutely terrible at yielding a bunch of control time on the ground, and that's how Gillian Robertson wins fights at this level. If we look at the strength of schedule, so the grappling advantage is obviously Robertson. And the strength of schedule advantage is Robertson as well, as we can see a better ratio here in more total fights and a better ratio in the wins in more total fights. So I like Gillian's strength of schedule. She's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. So Gillian's got the experience advantage, both pro and UFC, the durability advantage, the grappling advantage, the strength of schedule advantage, while Agapova has nice advantages in the measurables and in the striking. I still haven't seen Agapova do a good job of stopping takedowns or getting back to her feet after being taken down. So I do see a clear, obvious path to victory here for Gillian. And I think looking at her career numbers, that she's very likely to take the easy path here, which is just to grapple. I like Gillian to win this fight by submission or by decision. The next fight is going to be Trey Ogden against Daniel, the Golden Boy, Zellhuber. Mexico City, stand up. Daniel Zellhuber is one hell of a prospect. He's coming in at minus 300 right now on Bet Online. The comeback on Ogden, fighting out of Glory MMA and Fitness, plus 250. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 120. So this is a very interesting fight. I mean, I don't exactly know. This is an odd matchup. It's just very odd. But this kid Zellhuber looks very special, and he's very young. So I definitely like this kid's future, and it's going to be really interesting to see him fighting at the UFC level. And it'll be good to see Trey Ogden take a fight at the UFC level, not on short notice like he did against Jordan Levitt. But the measurables advantage here, all Zellhuber. He's huge lightweight. He'll have a 2-inch height advantage, a 5.5-inch reach advantage, and he's 9 years younger, and he's a switch stance fighter against an orthodox fighter. In the experience, the advantage goes to Ogden overall. Trey has 8 more pro fights. He's got almost 70 more minutes in the pro cage and almost 1.5 more years as a pro fighter. They have identical UFC experience stats, though. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving that advantage to Zellhuber. Daniel is just a little bit better of a finish rate as a pro, with 75% to the 73% for Ogden. But he's more well-rounded, as he has 2 subs and 7 knockouts, while all of Ogden's finish wins are by submission. Trey gets his subs by rear naked choke, guillotine, and arm triangles. And he's been finished in 3 of 5 pro losses, so he's definitely not a picture of durability. And Zellhuber's never lost, and he's shown he's got a granite chin in the Lucas Almeida fight. Zellhuber also has fantastic conditioning, training up at the elevation in Mexico City. The striking advantage, definitely Zellhuber, without question. He's taller. He's longer. He uses all his weapons so well. Great kicks to the legs, body, head. He's got a good fast jab, straight power punches that come down the pipe, and he also has a really nice check left hook. His striking is much better than Ogden's, who we actually saw lose minutes on the feet to Jordan Levitt. If Ogden's going to have any chance here, he's going to have to wrestle and grapple a ton. And that worries me because Zellhuber's conditioning is incredible. So if he's constantly going for takedowns, trying to take down a much taller guy with good takedown defense, we could see Ogden gas out after round 1 after trying to push that kind of pace against somebody like Zellhuber. The grappling advantage goes to Ogden. And I've got those stats up here. Okay, so I've seen Ogden have a little more grappling success on tape than Zellhuber, but Daniel is certainly no slouch. He's tall and long. He's tricky to deal with on the ground, and he's had a really cheeky calf slicer submission against a solid opponent in Miguel Arizmendi in Lux. That being said, I think grappling is Ogden's best path to winning minutes and staying in this fight. He doesn't wrestle a ton, but when he does, he gets his takedowns and does a good job of advancing position and hunting for chokes. All 11 of Ogden's finished wins are by sub, and this dude is dangerous on the ground. And since he appears to be so overmatched on the feet here, I fully expect him to wrestle and wrestle often. Zellhuber has excellent conditioning, though, so if he doesn't get him out of there early, he could gas out trying to push that kind of pace. The strength of schedule, I'm going to call even. Ogden's signature wins are against J.J. Okanovich and T.J. Brown. He's fought in LFA, Bellator, Fury FC, and FAC, while Zellhuber's fought in promotions like Combate, Lux, and Icon, and he has wins over Miguel Arizmendi and Lucas Almeida. So I think really the best signature win that either one of these guys has is Lucas Almeida, and that win is aging excellently after Lucas starched former tough winner Mike Trizano, I believe, in the second round, with just an absolutely vicious combination. I'm going to give Zellhuber the measurables, the finish stats, durability, and the striking advantages, while Ogden's got the overall experience and the grappling advantages. I love this matchup for Zellhuber. He's solid everywhere, and as long as he can stop the takedowns of Ogden, I think he's going to make this look pretty easy because he's so much better of a striker, and he's really good in the clinch too. So I think that even if Ogden tries to clinch up Zellhuber, those knees that Zellhuber throws are nasty, and I think he's going to have a hard time dealing with those. So I am picking Daniel Zellhuber to win this fight. The next one is Loma Lookboonmee against Denise Gomes. We got a couple of young fighters here again. So we've got Loma's a big favorite at minus 231. Denise Gomes plus 196. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 190. So I believe Gomes is the girlfriend of Carol Hossa, who we last saw just get drowned by Sara McMann in her last fight. So Gomes is only 22 years of age, so she's younger. She's got an inch of height. She's got 2 inches of reach here. Both fighters are orthodox and train at good camps. The experience advantage does go to Loma, as she's got 9 fights to Gomez's 7. It's a striker versus striker matchup. They're both Muay Thai strikers. Loma has 2 more pro fights in over 45 minutes in the pro cage, despite the fact that Gomes has been a pro for 6 months longer. So Loma also has been the busier fighter, but not by much. Loma has a nice little UFC experience advantage here with 4 more fights and 60 more minutes in the UFC cage. I think it's important to note that Loma had a previous opponent. Loma was supposed to be fighting Diana Belbita, and Gomes is taking this fight on short notice. So one reason to like Loma is definitely that. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the advantage to Gomes for the finish stats and the advantage to Lookboonmee for the durability. Gomes is a finisher. She hits hard. She's finished 4 of 6 pro wins, all by knockout. Loma has only 1 finish win as a pro, and it was by knockout. Loma has only been finished once in 3 pro losses, and it was by sub, as Gomes has been knocked out in her only loss, and she was almost finished several times by Milana Dudieva, even though she took that fight on short notice up a weight class. Got to give Loma the durability advantage here. When it comes to the striking, the advantage goes to Loma Lookboonmee. It's a striker versus striker matchup, but Loma being minus 235 should tell you all you need to know about who's more likely to win minutes in the striking exchanges here. Gomes has fantastic numbers in 15 minutes of cage time with a 3.2 positive significant strike differential and striking defense over 68%. Loma has nice numbers as well, but in a much bigger sample size of 75 minutes to only 15 for Gomes. Loma's got a 1.6 significant strike differential, and she lands at a very impressive 57% accuracy compared to 42% for Gomes. When it comes to the grappling, I'm just going to call this even. Both these ladies are strikers first. Gomes gave up 1 takedown in 4 attempts in her debut, yielding 10% control time against, which isn't bad at all. Loma hasn't been efficient in the grappling exchanges at the UFC level. She's a natural atom weight, so she's kind of easy to hold down in the strawweight division. Loma has yielded 8 takedowns in 5 fights and is allowing 29% control time against. She's averaging 1.4 takedowns per 15 minutes and gets around 10% control time. So she's done a decent job of mixing in the wrestling to keep her opponents guessing. And Loma also has some nice Muay Thai trips. The grappling should be about even here. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Loma. And she's got 5 UFC fights, so she's obviously fought the better level of competition in comparison to Gomes. Loma has a 1.2 ratio on her wins, and her opponents average 3.67 UFC fights. So it's not the best wins in the world, but Denise fits in well with that level of competition. Lookboonmee definitely has the tougher strength of schedule. So in summary, Loma's got the experience, pro and UFC. She got the durability advantage, the striking advantage, and the strength of schedule advantage here, while Gomes has the measurables and the finished stats and most likely power advantages here. I see Loma winning this fight over the short notice opponent by using her experience and striking advantage. I'm going to go with Loma by decision as the pick. I think it's sitting around minus 140 right now on BetOnline. So that's that fight, you guys. We got Aspen Ladd coming up next here at minus 143, and Sara McMann at plus 123 is the underdog. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 160. Interesting fight, once again, a fight that I have a bet on. But let's talk about these stats. The measurables advantage, we're giving Aspen Ladd. Even though these ladies are the exact same size and have the exact same reach, Aspen Ladd is 14 years younger than Sara McMann. 27 years of age for Aspen Ladd, 41 going on 42 for Sara McMann here as she's turning 42 in 9 days. The experience advantage goes to McMann here. She's got 7 more professional fights. She's got about 35 more minutes in the pro cage, and she's been a pro fighter for almost 4 more years. Sara also has the UFC experience advantage with 6 more fights and about 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, Aspen Ladd gets the advantage there. She's got the better finish rate as a pro, which is 78% compared to 46% for McMann. And in the UFC, she's got a better finish rate at 75% for Ladd. It's 43% for McMann. Sara's been finished in 5 of 6 UFC losses, while Ladd has only been finished once by Germaine de Randamie, and it was after a brutal weight cut. The striking advantage, I'm going to give to Sara McMann, but neither of these ladies are great strikers. But the UFC metrics are just leaning McMann here a little bit. Sara's got a positive 0.03 significant strike differential, while Ladd's is negative 0.87. Both are landing a knockdown on between 0.3 and 0.4% of the significant strikes that they land. And Ladd's defense is a little bit better at 47% compared to 44% for Sara McMann. Both are absorbing about 0.2 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And McMann throws more volume than her opponents, while Ladd throws less. The grappling advantage, that's Sara McMann. I mean, obviously. Sara's the best female wrestler in the UFC. An Olympic freestyle silver medalist. She averages 3.27 takedowns per 15 minutes. She's gotten 27 takedowns in 13 fights, and she's controlling her opponents over 62% of her 123 minutes in the UFC cage. You guys, that is such an important stat here. 62%. That's 5 out of every 8 seconds Sara McMann is on top of you. Right? It's really hard to win fights when you're getting dominated for 5/8 of that fight. You've got to find moments in that other 3/8. You have to have excellent conditioning and durability to be underneath this powerful woman for 10 minutes straight and get that third round comeback, because Sara McMann's biggest kryptonite has been her conditioning. And that's never surprising. For somebody that has as much muscle on their frame as McMann does, for somebody who's an Olympic wrestler who's used to wrestling for 6 minutes, not for 15, she's had to learn over her career how to pace herself more, how to, make that conditioning last the full 15 minutes and spend a little bit more time in the striking exchanges setting up higher percentage takedowns. But 27 takedowns in 13 fights. She's averaging 3.27 per 15 minutes, getting her takedowns at a 56% clip. All that is excellent stuff. Now, Aspen Ladd has attempted 17 takedowns in 7 fights. She's getting her takedowns at a great percentage, 47%. She's out controlling her opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio, about 35%. to 17.5%. So she's done very well. But the problem is that Sara McMann has attempted 48 takedowns in 13 fights. You know, Aspen Ladd has seen 8 takedown attempts, only 8 takedown attempts in her 7 UFC fights. It's going to be a different style of fight than we've seen Aspen Ladd fight before. And in only these 8 takedown attempts and 3 successful takedowns in 76 minutes, you know, she's being controlled about 12 minutes on those 8 takedown attempts. So everything about the numbers and everything about when you watch these two fighters fight tells me that Sara McMann's going to get takedowns early and win a bunch of minutes on top. Don't believe me? 62.32% control time over a 13-fight sample size in almost 125 minutes in the UFC cage. So Sara has done it over and over and over again. And she doesn't really lose first rounds, you guys. So I think Sara McMann's a great bet. Great bet this week because you can arb out after round 1 and get probably the Aspen Ladd at plus 130 when you're getting Sara McMann at almost plus 125 right now. The strength of schedule, very close on ratio, a little more total fights for Sara McMann. Like the wins better for McMann. So, yeah, I like this fight for Sara McMann. I have a bet on her. Summary is that Aspen Ladd's 14 years younger, and she's got the finish stats and the durability advantages, while McMann has the experience, the striking metrics advantage, definitely a big grappling and wrestling advantage, and a strength of schedule advantage. I like McMann here. Her wrestling is top-notch, and she should easily win enough minutes in this fight with her wrestling to get her hand raised at the end of the fight. So I'm picking Sara McMann to win this one by decision, and I've got a 1-unit bet on her on Bet Online at plus 108. The next fight that we're going to discuss won't take long. It is going to be Bodybagz Pyfer going up against Alen Amedovski. Macedonia, stand up. Your guy, Alen Amedovski, might be the worst fighter in the UFC. This guy is bad. He's really bad. We got 3 UFC fights for Alen Amedovski thus far. And in those 3 fights, he's landed a grand total of 9 significant strikes. He averages landing 3 significant strikes per fight. Only 9 significant strikes landed in 16 minutes of cage time. A whopping 0.55 significant strikes landed per minute, and he's absorbing almost 4 significant strikes a minute with a dreadful 36% striking defense, and he's absorbing a knockdown on 3.13% of the significant strikes that he's absorbing, and he's absorbing 1.83 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Pyfer does have 1 knockdown. He's averaging 2.5 for 15 minutes. Bodybagz can flat out wrestle. He's a Renzo Gracie Philly guy. 72% control time for, 11% control time against. Alen Amedovski, 0% takedown defense, and he's got 1.33% control time for, 61% control time against. I think that the UFC really likes Bodybagz Pyfer. I think they want to throw him right into the rotation and get this guy a name and get him some wins. And what better way to get him a win than to square him against Alen Amedovski? I mean, this guy is terrible. He's got 1 win condition, and that is first-round knockout. Let's look at Amedovski's illustrious career here, shall we? And we can find he does have 2 good wins. He's got wins over Ibrahim Mane, and he's got another win over Bill Fleury, who's a damn good fighter. But then it's a bunch of, bums here. 0-0, 3-0, 0-1, 4-0. Robert Fantasia. I remember that guy. He's awful. All round 1 finishes, round 1, round 2, round 1 against Doroshkin, round 1, and these 2 were also round 1. So Amedovski by first round knockout is plus 2,500 on Bet Online right now. I put 1/10 of a unit on that because it's his only win condition. But I also do have a 2.4 unit bet on the minus 160 under 1.5 for this fight because Alen Amedovski's fights almost always finish under 1.5 rounds. And I think he's just severely overmatched here. I think Pyfer's going to take him down, ground and pound him out, and it's going to be very quick. So Bodybagz Pyfer by murder over the hapless Alen Amedovski. And then I think we will it'll be a minute before we see another Macedonian in the UFC. But this is Pyfer all day, every day. Next fight, you guys, is Louis Cosce at plus 182, squaring off against Trevin Giles. Officer Giles is weighing in at minus 212 right now. Interesting fight. Let's get the notes up here. Measurables advantage goes to Giles. Trevin's got a 3-inch reach advantage, a 3-inch height advantage, and both of these guys are orthodox fighters. Both of them fighting at pretty good camps here. I think Louis Cosce might be at the Sacramento place with Uriah Faber, Alpha Male. I think he might be there now. I know his brother is. War Training Center for Trevin Giles. The experience advantage goes to Giles as he's got 10 more pro fights, 135 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more years as a pro fighter. Trevin Giles also has the UFC experience advantage with 7 more UFC fights and 85 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, that's advantage Giles as well. Cosce's got the better finish rate as a pro, 100% to 79%. And at the UFC level, 100% finish rate for Cosce, 60% finish rate for Giles. Even though it's in a smaller sample size of wins, both guys have been finished in all their losses. So actually, I think I should have given that to Cosce, not to Giles, because he has been the more potent finisher, and both guys are getting finished. The striking advantage goes to Giles. So Trevin has the far superior significant strike differential at 0.89 positive compared to negative 1.08 for Cosce. The striking accuracy is better for Giles at 55% to 48.5% for Cosce. The striking defense much better for Giles, like 10% better at 59% to about 49% for Cosce. But Cosce has serious power, and he ends fights with that power. Louis is landing a knockdown on 1.74% of the significant strikes that he lands, which is better than Giles, who's sitting at 1%, which is also very good. Cosce averages 2.15 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and for Giles, it's 0.46. And Giles has been knocked down 3 times in 9 UFC fights, averaging out to about 0.46 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. Giles should be the minute winner in the stand-up, while Cosce should be the moment winner. But that being said, Trevin has power too, and he's likely to land a big shot due to the subpar striking defense of Cosce. The grappling advantage, that's Giles as well. Giles is pretty efficient on the ground. Even though his opponents have attempted 15 more takedowns than he has, 29 takedown attempts for Giles' opponents, 14 for Giles, he's only being out-controlled by about 2% here. Giles gets his takedown attempts at a 64% clip, but he almost never wrestles, as he only has shot 14 takedown attempts in about 100 minutes in the UFC cage. Cosce comes from a wrestling background and will mix in his wrestling, but mostly he just comes forward throwing bombs. I don't think we can count on Cosce to win minutes with his wrestling here. When it gets to the strength of schedule, that's Trevin Giles as well, and big time for Giles. Trevin's fought, beaten, and lost to the superior UFC and regional scene competition. Look, Giles has the advantage everywhere except for finish stats. He's got the fight-ending power. Giles has got the measurables advantage, the experience advantage as a pro, the experience advantage in the UFC, the striking advantage, the grappling advantage, and the strength of schedule. But Luke Cosce brings one thing that can just fuck up any well-rounded fighter, and that's one-punch knockout power and the willingness to throw with that power with every single strike that he throws with. So Giles will even have the better conditioning here because he paces himself better in fights. So I mean, I think Giles wins this fight, but I'm not laying minus 210 on Trevin Giles. He's one of the most frustrating fighters in the UFC. He's got a great jab, fantastic jab, Trevin Giles, which he never throws. He's a great wrestler, but he never attempts takedowns. He's got slick striking, but he throws no fucking volume. And then he makes dumb-ass decisions on the ground and will dive into the guards of superior grapplers in order to try to land ground and pound, which Giles also is excellent at. His ground and pound is fantastic. It's next level. So Giles should be able to put together a good mixed martial arts performance here, be the more well-rounded fighter, have more weapons. But if he gets caught once from Cosce, he's going down because Giles is not that durable. So I'm picking Giles to win this fight, but I'm definitely not betting him. And Louis Cosce by first round knockout could be an interesting way to play this fight. What do they got for first round knockout for Cosce? Plus 700. I think that's a great look. I might throw a quarter of a unit on that because if we look at Lou Cosce's UFC experience, I mean, not UFC experience, but career experience. Win round one, 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 win round one. Every single win comes in round number one for Louis Cosce. So instead of taking him at plus 180, why not take him by his best win condition at plus 700? That's the way I'm playing this fight. The pick is Giles, but there's no way in hell I'm betting him. The bet will probably be a quarter unit on Lou Cosce at plus 700 by first round knockout. The next fight is a fascinating fight, you guys. It is Damon Jackson, the Leech, going up against Pat Sabatini. We got Jackson checking in at plus 160 right here. Sabatini minus 185. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 170. Let me check something out really. Okay. So let's get the notes up here. Let's see, 64 of you guys hanging out with me on a Tuesday night. I truly appreciate it. And make sure you stay tuned, you guys. Not only do we have my track bets coming up at the end of the show, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week coming up at the end of the show, but after this Damon Jackson, Pat Sabatini breakdown, we will be giving you a very special installment of Storytime with Uncle Weezy. And it will be a college story, a drug-fueled college story, which I hope you guys enjoy. But Damon Jackson versus Pat Sabatini first. The measurables advantage goes to Jackson. He's the bigger dude. He's got a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Damon switches stances as well. Pat, though, is 3 years younger. You like that. The experience advantage goes to Damon Jackson. As he's got 7 more pro fights. He's got 35 more minutes in the pro cage and 1.5 more years as a pro fighter. Damon also has the UFC experience advantage with 4 more UFC fights and over 32 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, the advantage goes to Jackson for the finish stats, and the advantage goes to Sabatini for the durability. Damon's got the better finish rate both as a pro, 85% to 71% for Sabatini, and at the UFC level, as Damon has finished 2 of his 4 UFC wins, while Sabatini has only finished 1 of his 4 wins. Let's see. Sabatini did have his elbow dislocated in his only finished loss by Jason the Alley Cat Gonzalez in CFFC, and that's his only finished loss. So you really have to give the durability edge to Sabatini here, as he's only been finished once, and it literally took his arm being ripped in half in order for that to happen, while Damon Jackson's been finishing all 4 of his pro losses. The grappling is even. Both of these guys are just absolutely fantastic grapplers. Sabatini averages 3.84 takedowns for 15 minutes, and Damon's getting 2.47. Damon attempts more submissions on average, as he's trying 2.09 submission attempts for 15 minutes, but it's Pat's just below that with 1.92. Both guys are out-controlling their opponents at a better than 2-to-1 ratio. Neither guy has shown good takedown defense at this level either. So whoever wins the grappling exchanges here probably wins this fight. Both guys spend over 70% of their UFC cage time in control time positions. Damon's efficiency and conditioning, though, are both better in my opinion. As we can see here, Damon's got about as many takedowns as his opponents do. He's got 13, and his opponents have 12, but he's out-controlling his opponents at like a 2.5-to-1 ratio with almost 50% control time for and just under 21% control time allowed. While Sabatini's getting 4 takedowns for every one that his opponents get, but he's just out-controlling his opponents at about the same ratio that Damon Jackson is. So definitely like the efficiency for Jackson and the conditioning for Jackson has always been fantastic. We've seen Pat Sabatini take off third rounds before. So the strength of schedule advantage also goes to Damon Jackson here, as Damon's fought the better brand of competition over his career. He's definitely fought the more experienced UFC competition thus far. And prior to that, he was in PFL fighting top-notch dudes. So in summary, I've got Jackson with the measurables, the experience overall and UFC, the finish stats, and the strength of schedule advantages and the conditioning advantage here, while Sabatini has the durability and a slight UFC striking metrics advantage. I'm picking Damon Jackson to win this fight. Jackson is the most experienced fighter and the best grappler Pat has fought at this level. It's going to be a great fight. I bet Jackson for 1 unit at plus 180 on Caesars William Hill earlier in the week. And I just think that line's entirely too wide. It has been moving in Jackson's favor as he's sitting now about plus 160. But yeah, you guys, I like Damon Jackson to win this fight. Pat Sabatini's fantastic. These Renzo Gracie Philly dudes are great fighters, and they've all got bright futures. But this is a big step up in competition for Pat Sabatini. Damon Jackson isn't going to start playing footsie with Pat Sabatini and start trying for a toe hold like Jamal Emmers did when he got his knee ripped in half. We haven't seen Jamal Emmers since then because that was such a serious injury that he sustained because of that dumbassery playing footsie with Pat Sabatini. But I'm liking Damon Jackson here. I'm picking him to win this fight. I've got a plus 180 bet for 1 unit on him to win. And I think he probably gets it done by decision with his wrestling and grappling. All right, so that brings us to the next fight, which is oh, and by the way, for this Jackson fight, I've got a half unit bet on the under 2.5 at plus 205. If we zoom in here, that's a 33% implied probability at plus 205. We're getting a 5% edge when we compare that to the divisional finish rate or the divisional under 2.5 rate. We're getting a 17.21% break when we compare these two guys' UFC under 2.5 rates with the implied probability of the line, and a 12% break when we compare the fighter finish rates at the UFC level to the divisional under 2.5 rate. So it's a bet that the analytics love. Both guys are great finishers, and in Damon Jackson in particular, we got a guy whose fights are finishing inside the distance about 81.5% of the time in a 27-fight sample size. So definitely like this fight to surprise people and potentially finish inside the distance here. And at plus 205 on the under 2.5, it's a great line that the analytics is telling us is severely underpriced. And then the next fight is going to be Hernandez-Barrio. But before we get to the Hernandez-Barrio fight, how about a very special installment of Storytime with Uncle Weezy? The last time we did this was right before the week off that we had 3 weeks ago. So I figure why not do another one this week? Not feeling particularly well. Wish I was healthy, but let's have some fun, you guys. So I went to the Harvard of the Midwest, Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies, right? And I was not a great student my first time through college. I concentrated a lot on my fraternity house, parties, trying to get laid, doing everything but actually showing up to class, studying, going to the library, right? So I was having a rough semester, probably was going to fail a couple of classes, get some C's, get some D's, but we're winding down the semester, and now finals week is happening. And in DeKalb, Illinois, This was the spring semester. So we were just coming up on summer, but in DeKalb, man, it's cold, you guys. And, and the spring semester starts, the middle of January, and then you go up until like the beginning of May, which is when it ends. And so we get cold weather in January, cold weather in February, cold weather in March, cold weather in April, and a ton of rain. And then usually by the end of the year, we start to get some nice days. And I was a Sigma Chi up at Northern Illinois. We had this great backyard with a basketball court, a volleyball court. People would play hacky sack out there, play music. We had a giant deck where we would hook up a keg inside and had an outside tap so people could just, go and fill up their beers. And we used to just party back there, right? So the semester is coming to an end. I'm done with most of my finals, but we get this gorgeous day. It's like 75 degrees outside. About half the house is already done with their finals. So everybody's like, I'm partying today. Now, I still had, I think, 2 finals left later in the week, but they were in classes that I was already getting fucking the shit kicked out of me in these classes. So I really didn't care about it. And one of the guys in the house had a ton of mushrooms, of psychedelic mushrooms. So I found out that he had gotten them, and he's like, dude, let me know, dude. I got them. If you want some, I got some. And I'm like, okay. I don't have any money, though. So the plan was to go sell my books so that I could buy mushrooms, right? Because I was going to sell these books that I had already finished my finals on, and the ones where I hadn't finished the finals on, just borrow somebody else's book or whatever. But I'm going to go to the bookstore and come back with enough money to buy these shrooms and then trip balls for the rest of the day, right? So go and sell my books, and of course, get way less money for my books than I thought I would get because these bookstores always fuck you over. So I think I came back with like $22 in my hand, and that was the last money I had that semester. And yes, I was going to spend it on mushrooms and trip balls the rest of the night. So I go back, catch up with my buddy. I'm like, dude, sold my books. Here's $22. Let's go. And he goes, dude, save your money. Go into the formal room. Got something for you in there. So he kind of puts his arm around me. We walk in there, and I see that he's set up this little card table in the formal room. And there's a giant plate of like mushroom dust. It's a pile about that high. It looked like more than an ounce, right? And what he had done was he took a loaf of Wonder Bread, a big ass jar of Skippy peanut butter, and he's like, put some peanut butter on that bread, put a whole handful of mushrooms on that fucking peanut butter, make yourself a sandwich. Half an hour from now, you'll be tripping balls, and it's on me, right? So I'm like, hell yeah. Got to save my money, got to get fucked up like I planned to, and now these mushrooms are kicking in. We've got the sorority girls from next door in our backyard. There's a beach volleyball game going on. There's a basketball game going on. Dudes are hacking. We're macking on these ladies. There's beer on the deck, and we're all just having a beautiful day. And I'm just like, we haven't seen the sun in months. It's just an absolutely gorgeous day. And then, I'm watching some of the guys play volleyball. This one guy, we'll call him Don, goes up to spike the ball. Beautiful shot. Comes down and just screams in pain at the top of his lungs and goes down. And then he picks up his right foot. And we look at it. We're like, holy fuck. This dude stepped on a nail that was just sitting in the sand of our volleyball pit. Nobody knows how it got there. This thing is, of course, rusty. And so we see Don go down like a sack of potatoes, and I'm tripping balls. Don's tripping balls. And one of Don's best friends from back home, he's a nursing major, right? And he's not on mushrooms because he actually cares about school and is planning on showing up to the rest of the finals. So he comes out, takes a look at Don's foot, and that nail is still in there, right? And he goes, look, we got to get you to the hospital right now. You have to have a tetanus shot. And Don's like, no, man, I'm tripping balls. I can't go to the fucking hospital. And so this guy tells me, hey, get his arm underneath you. So I got one arm around my neck. This other guy's got Don's other arm around his neck, and we're carrying him over to this dude's car because he's sober, because he's the nursing major. he said, we're taking you to the hospital right now, right? So I'm on Don's left side, and we're getting into the right car door. So I get into the car and help Don in. And then the guy that's the nursing major, just as soon as Don is in and his foot's down, he closes the door, and then he runs around to the other side, comes in, starts up the car, and just starts driving to the hospital. And I'm like, dude, no, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm tripping balls. I'm staying here. We got like 30 girls in the backyard. We're playing basketball. We're playing hack. I'm not going to the fucking hospital tripping balls to get a nail out of this dude's foot. And he goes, listen, dude, be a brother. I can't do this on my own. I can't carry him in there on my own. And he's all fucked up. I'm like, dude, pull the car over. I am not going to the fucking hospital. He's like, be a brother, Weezy. Be a brother. Don's, he could have that fucking foot amputated if we don't get him there. I'm like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me, right? So we're in DeKalb, and we have to go to Kishwaukee Hospital, which is like a 15 to 20-minute drive. And I'm furious. Now I'm missing out on the best day of the year. I sold my books to buy mushrooms, and now I'm tripping balls, having fun, partying. And instead of doing that in my backyard, I'm in a fucking shitty car driving over to Kishwaukee Hospital so that my buddy can get a nail taken out of his foot. And me and Don are tripping balls. Eyes as big as saucers. Nonstop laughing, right? We can't even contain ourselves. And we get to the hospital, and then now I've got to help Don in to the emergency room with the other guy who's thankfully sober. And I'm like, dude, you got to do all the fucking talking. I'm not talking to these people. Don't let anybody near me. And I'll sit over here with Dom, and I'll make sure that we literally interact with nobody, and we get this over as soon as humanly possible. So we go. This guy goes up there and says, my friend stepped on a nail. I'm a nursing major. He's got to have a tetanus shot, and I don't want to take the nail out because, I don't know if, you guys should pull out the nail. So luckily, they're like, we could probably see in about a half hour. And I mean, I can't walk home. It's too long of a walk. So I'm stuck there now, right? And we're kind of like in the waiting room. And I mean, both Don and I can tell that everybody's looking at us, that we can tell that there's eyes on us. They know that something's wrong, that we're not in our right minds. And if anybody comes up close to either one of us, they're going to see that our eyes are fucking huge, right? And so every time I look at Dom, we just start laughing. We can't control ourselves. It's just too funny. And I'm just like, we got to stop laughing. We can't laugh. These people are going to fucking come over and figure out what we're doing, So we're trying not to laugh. And then I feel an elbow from Don, and he goes, what the hell is that outside? And I look, and it's one of those short buses, You had the kids that came to school on the long bus, and you had the kids that came to school on the short bus, right? And I go, oh, God, Don, what the fuck is their short bus doing here? Please tell me they're not bringing in short bus kids here while we're trying not to laugh. They're bringing in short bus kids, right? There's 12 kids on this bus. They're between the ages of like, I would say like early high school to like mid-20s, right? And they're all mentally retarded kids and adults that are for some reason there to have their shots. And they're all getting ushered in. And of course, while Don and I are trying not to laugh, and like these guys are moving around and they got big fucking smiles on their face. And I'm doing this. I've got my head in my shirt and I'm trying not to laugh. And I feel like such a dick. I am not the kind of person that's going to go out there and point my finger and laugh at somebody that's less fortunate than me. But I'm tripping balls. And these kids are all over us, and they see the fucking nail in Don's foot. And they come over and they're like, "Are you okay? Did you get hurt?" And me and Don our faces are beet red. There's snot flying out of our nose. We're trying to hold our breath so we won't laugh. And we're just not successful at it. And these kids are so nice. They're totally being so empathetic to Don, and all he can do is just like sit there and go, please leave me alone. Please leave, because we both feel so bad for laughing. And I mean, I'm like, we can't laugh. And then they all sat by us, and they were all there to get their shots. So because Don was going in to get his tetanus shot, he was going to see the same doctor that was going to give all of these kids their shots. And the poor nursing major who's sitting there trying to keep us from not laughing is just, and you could tell he doesn't want to be there either. And I had tears pouring down my face. I couldn't breathe. I was beet red. My eyes were as big as saucers. And I'm like, just get me the fuck out of here, please. We were there for at least an hour. I kept going to the bathroom to get away from these kids. They kept following me in there. I'm trying not to interact with them so I don't laugh, but it's impossible. I'm winding up having conversations with these people while I'm shrooming. And it was just about the most fucking surreal thing that has ever happened to me on mushrooms. Winding up in Kishwaukee Hospital, watching my friend get a nail pulled out of his foot while shrooming balls, and having to get shots in the same room with like 12 kids that were severely mentally retarded, who were touching him, smiling at him, talking to him, and all he could do was try to not laugh. It was just an absolute shit show. But they taped the shit out of his foot, and like an hour and a half later, we laughed the whole way home. And when we got back, we told everybody in the house that story, and we were all laughing so fucking hard. I remember going right back to that plate, making myself another sandwich, and I think I tripped balls until about 6 o'clock in the morning that night. And I don't think we stopped laughing the entire time. One of the best times I've ever had on mushrooms. It was so cool to be out there in the backyard just having fun. But that time at the hospital, I've never in my life tried not so hard not to laugh and been so unsuccessful doing it. It was such an uncomfortable situation, but I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, but we've got a little bit more work to do here, you guys. Yeah, man, we got Ice Viking saying, great story. I appreciate you. David Nettles saying, Uncle Weezy story time, well worth the price of admission. Everybody's laughing. I love it, man. I love it when you guys enjoy the stories, man, because, I've got a lot of very, very interesting college stories that a lot of them go like that. One time I'll tell you about the time that we ran out of gas in the middle of Arkansas with about $1,000 worth of drugs in the car. That'll be another one. But let's get back to work, you guys. Thanks for listening to Storytime with Uncle Weezy. I appreciate all 70 of you guys that are hanging out with us here late on a Tuesday night, trying to figure out how to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 60. So here we go. 5 more fights to break down. And we are going with Anthony Hernandez against Marc-Andre Barriault. So we've got Hernandez at minus 174 and Marc-Andre Barriault at plus 149. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 140. So the measurables advantage goes to Hernandez here, as he's 4 years younger. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Both guys are orthodox fighters, and Marc is listed at 1 inch taller. The experience advantage definitely goes to Barriault here, as Marc has 8 more professional fights. He's got 105 more minutes in the pro cage and has 3 more months as a pro fighter. Marc has also lost the UFC experience. Marc also has the UFC experience advantage with 2 more UFC fights and almost 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. The finish stats and durability advantage. The finish stats goes to Hernandez. the durability goes to Barrio. Anthony has the better finish rate as a pro, 78% for Anthony, 71% for Barrio. And both guys have finished 2 of their 3 UFC wins. Both guys are very durable as well. Barrio has only been finished in 1 of 5 pro losses, while Anthony's been finished in both of his UFC losses. Hernandez has an incredible chin, though. But both times he was knocked out, it was because he got served by body kicks. And that's what ended his night. So if you want to knock out Anthony Hernandez, there is absolutely no point to trying to hit him in the face because he's got a legendary chin. But if you go to that body of his, it's a little bit soft, and we've seen him get knocked out twice to the body. So that's what Marc-Andre Barrio is going to want to do here. He's going to want to be working that body because Hernandez's conditioning is sick. The striking advantage goes to Barrio. Let me get these stats up on the screen here. Mark has the better significant strike differential, 0.75 to 0.33, and the better striking defense at 55.5% to 46%. And he's been dropped less at 0.17 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes to 0.38 for Anthony Hernandez. And then Anthony has the slightly better power numbers, and the superior striking accuracy at 58.7% to only 46% for Barrio. Both these guys put a pace on their opponents, and they both have fantastic cardio. So I expect this to be a high-volume fight, but I think Barrio can win the exchanges on the feet. When it comes to the grappling, though, that's Hernandez. Anthony's the middleweight version of JSP, of Jonathan Pierce here. He spams takedowns. He gets them at an incredibly high rate, 70%. 14 to 20 on his takedowns in his UFC career. He's averaging 5.39 takedowns per 15 minutes and 2.31 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And he's incredibly active in the grappling exchanges. He was able to grapple with Rodolfo Vieira, and he subbed the BJJ world champion. Anthony spends almost 70% of his UFC cage time in control time positions. So expect Hernandez to grapple a ton here and make Mark very uncomfortable. And in the strength of schedule, I'm going with Hernandez as well. Anthony's fought the UFC competition with the better win-loss ratio. As we can see, hang on a second. The 1.33 ratio for Hernandez here, while it's 1.14 for Barrio. And they have a similar level of UFC experience in their opponents. Hernandez's wins are better, though, as we see a 3.5 ratio and almost as many total fights, while Marc-Andre's wins are against losing competition, guys with losing UFC records. So Anthony Hernandez has the measurables advantage, the finish stats advantage, the grappling and the strength of schedule advantages here, while Mark is 1 inch taller and he has the striking advantage, in my opinion. I like Hernandez to win this fight. He's a serious problem to deal with at this time because of that conditioning, because of that pace, and because of that ability to be able to get those takedowns over and over and over again. And even if you're getting back up, he kind of takes you right back down again. And he's got the pace to be able to push that for a full 15 minutes. And as a result of that, he breaks dudes. But Barrio is hard to break. He's only been finished in 1 of 5 losses, and it was a flash knockout against Chidi Njokuani. So, I think that this is going to be an absolute war. But Hernandez is a very, very tough opponent for anybody at this level right now. This kid, his conditioning, his pace, his pressure, his wrestling, and his grappling are all really good. So I've got to pick him to win this fight. But I think this is a very stiff test for Anthony Hernandez, and I think that this is excellent matchmaking because I want to see, how Hernandez does when he's unable to break his opponents because of the pace that he puts on, because they're not going to go away, because they're durable. So this is a great test for Hernandez, but I'm a big fan of this kid, and I think he's going to get the job done on Saturday. Do I have any bets on this fight? I don't think I have any bets on this fight. The next one is going to be Tanner Boser at -168, squaring off against Rodrigo Nascimento at +148. The fight doesn't go to decision, is at -205 for this fight. So we got Rodrigo's 2 years younger here. Both of these guys are 6'2", but Nascimento with a 5-inch reach advantage. And he's fighting out of American Top Team, while it's Shaved Bears MMA for Tanner Boser, one of my favorite camp names. I know that he trains over there with former UFC fighter, the Indian guy. What was his name? Oh, He lost to the Spartan, Andreas Mihalidis. Ah, God damn it. What the hell? Oh, there's like initials in there too. I can't remember. KB Buller. KB Buller. That he trains with KB Buller over at Shaved Bears MMA. So Bozer's much more experienced. He's got 19 more pro fights, over 330 more minutes in the pro cage. And but it's actually Nascimento who's got a longer career by 6 months. So Nascimento fights just under once a year, while Tanner Boser fights about 3 times a year. So Tanner Boser not only has the experience advantage, he's just been the much busier fighter here. Oh, God. Excuse me, guys. The UFC experience advantage is also Boser with 3 more fights and 60 more minutes in the pro cage. Now, Nascimento's a killer be killed fighter. He's finished all 9 of his wins, and he's been finished in his only loss. Tanner Boser is very durable, as he's only been finished in 1 of 8 losses, but he's finished 65%, 13 of his 20 wins inside the distance, and he's finished 3 of his 4 UFC wins by knockout. When it comes to the striking, I like Tanner Boser's striking better, and it's clear in the numbers here as we see that he's landing about twice as many significant strikes per minute as he absorbs. He's landing at a 52% accuracy, has solid power numbers, great striking defense, and he's never been knocked down. Now, Nascimento has 38% striking defense. He's been knocked down twice in 4 fights, and he's absorbing 1.71 takedowns per 15 minutes, or 1.71 knockdowns per 15 minutes. His opponents throw more volume than him, and he lands about 0.7 less significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. So Boser is the better striker. Nascimento his striking looked really good in the second round against Alen Badeau, but in the first round he was getting pieced up. And then Chris Daukaus absolutely knocked him out right away in the first round. So I do think that Tanner is the much better striker here, but it's Nascimento who's the better grappler. Long-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, spending about 42% of his fights in control time positions for or against. He's gotten 2 of the 5 takedowns that he's went for, 1.71 takedowns per 15 minutes, 1.71 subs per 15 minutes. So Nascimento should be the better grappler, the better wrestler, the better submission grappler. And Tanner Boser has had 70% takedown defense, but he's only faced 10 takedown attempts in 7 fights. So that 10% control time that he's given up is really good. And it looks like he's spent about 88% of his 78 minutes in the UFC cage at striking distance, which is also very good if striking is your strong suit, and that's what Tanner Boser's strong suit is. So you like all that, but he hasn't seen a lot of takedown attempts. But then again, Nascimento isn't exactly the type to go out there and just spam takedowns. So we're going to have to see how this one shakes out, but I'm leaning Boser here. And then when we look at the strength of schedule here, much better ratio, much more experienced competition for Boser overall, and the wins are much better for Boser as well as the loss. So Boser's got the strength of schedule advantage, the striking advantage, and the experience advantage, while Nascimento is the better finisher. He's the bigger dude, and he's the better grappler, and he's the younger guy. So it's a very interesting fight. Rodrigo's pretty well-rounded. His striking looked really good in the second round against Badeau, but it took him a while to get going. And, I mean, like, he was getting pieced up in that first round. So I like violence in this spot. If we look at the prop template, I placed a bet on the under 2.5, which for some reason opened at minus 108. And when we see that number here, we see a 7% break, almost 12% break, and 5% break. So at that number, to only pay 52% for under 2.5 when, 100% of Rodrigo Nascimento's fights, all 9 wins and all 1 loss, have finished inside the distance. So you got a killer be killed fighter in Nascimento, and you've got a guy in Boser who's very durable, but the wrestlers that Boser's fought are not submission guys. Rodrigo Nascimento is a submission guy. So we could see Nascimento get a submission. We could see Boser get a knockout here, but this line has gotten away now, and I think it's more around minus 180. But it's still not horribly overpriced at that rate there. But I like the under 2.5. I like the fight doesn't go to decision. And the pick is going to be Tanner Boser inside the distance. But I think Rodrigo's kind of live here, and I think he could absolutely surprise some people. He's going to be the much bigger guy. He's the bigger heavyweight here. Got one of the biggest asses in the entire UFC next to Parker Porter and maybe Norma Dumont. But Rodrigo puts the ass in Nascimento. So he's going to be much bigger. He's a great grappler. He can do good things in the clinch. Going to be an interesting fight, but I am picking Tanner Boser to win it inside the distance. The next fight is going to be Philly against Algeo. Great one that I like the over in. But Andre Philly -114, Bill Algeo -106. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at +165. So we see that the measurables are very close. Philly's a year younger and has an inch of reach. Algeo's an inch taller. Philly's got 9 more pro fights, about 40 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 2.5 more years as a pro. He's also got 12 more fights at the UFC level and over 110 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both these guys are pretty good finishers. They're finishing a third of their UFC wins by knockout, but Philly has a 57% finish rate as a pro, and it's 63% for Algeo. And both of these guys have been finished. For Algeo, it's 2 out of 6 losses by sub. And for Philly, it's 3 out of 9 losses by knockout and 2 out of 9 by submission. So both of these guys have been finished at a decent rate. 2 + 5 is 7 out of their 15 losses combined inside the distance. The striking I'm giving to Philly here. Philly's got power, man, and that counts for a lot. 37% striking accuracy, much worse than Algeo here, but the striking defense is better. He throws a lot more volume than his opponents, but he's absorbing 1/10 more significant strike per minute than he lands, while Algeo is landing about 1.6 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, and he's throwing about 3 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents are. So Algeo brings a lot of volume, but I think Philly will be landing the cleaner, crisper, heavier strikes at range. And then Philly's got good grappling numbers. He's getting his takedowns at a 50% clip, averaging about 2.5 for 15 minutes. And even though he attempts as many takedowns as his opponents do, his opponents are out-controlling him by about 5%. But I think a lot of that was the Bryce Mitchell fight, which is a very tough one. And Algeo's not a master of control time. 6 fights, only 10 takedown attempts, and only 5 takedowns. So he's averaging less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and he gets out-controlled by about 3%. But when you see that he only has 5 takedowns and his opponents have 23, the fact that he's only getting out-controlled by about 3% on the ground, Algeo is very efficient. So he's easy to take down, but he's almost impossible to hold down. Compared him to the greased-up deaf guy from Family Guy last night, and I think it's a good comparison. If you saw how he squirmed his way out of that submission from Herbert Burns, you know that this dude is very tough to lock up a sub on the ground. And Philly's got the better total fights. He's fighting the more experienced competition, but it's Algeo who's fighting guys with the better win-loss ratio. And, you know, he's got a better ratio here in his wins too, does Algeo, but it's the much more experienced competition that Philly's beating. And both of these guys are losing to very similar competition. It's a great fight. I think that Philly is going to be the better moment winner in this fight. And because Philly throws a ton of volume, because he's a very competent wrestler who can mix that in if he doesn't like that how it's going on the feet, I think that the striking exchanges are going to be very close, but I think Philly lands the bigger shots. And I also think that Philly's the more likely guy to win minutes in the grappling due to the fact that he's the more active wrestler and due to the fact that Bill Algeo has 55% takedown defense. So in close rounds, I think Philly can shoot a takedown in the last 30 seconds and bank that round. So I'm picking Andre Philly, and I'm picking him to win this one by decision because Bill Algeo extremely durable, and Philly's fairly durable as well, but Algeo is not much of a finisher, especially at this level. So Andre Philly by decision is the pick, and one of my favorite prop bets of the week is the over 2.5 at -210. As we can see here, 15 of these guys' 24 fights combined have went to decision, which is 66.67%. And we're only paying 65% for the fight goes and 67% for the over 2.5. So not horribly overpriced here. And I think the stylistic matchup dictates that this one does go over 2.5, that it does go the distance. And I don't think it's a bad parlay piece at minus 210, although I would have loved to have gotten it around minus 170 or minus 180, but that's all right. We'll worry about that later. The next fight, you guys, is Chidi Njokuani, minus 130 versus Hobocop, Gregory Rodriguez at plus 110. And let's see here. We've got Rodriguez is 3 years younger. Both of these guys are 6'3", but it's Chidi who's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. We like that on the feet. Chidi's much more experienced with 14 more pro fights and more than twice as many minutes in the cage than Gregory. Also about 7 more years as a pro fighter for Chidi. Greg has the UFC experience advantage, though, with 2 more fights and about 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys are good finishers, but Rodriguez, 83% finish rate, 10 of 12 wins inside the distance, and Chidi Njokuani has a 69% finish rate as he's finished, I believe, 15 of his 22 wins inside the distance. Chidi's not very durable as he's been finished in 6 of 7 losses, 3 times by knockout, 3 times by sub, and Rodriguez has been knocked out in 2 of his 4 pro losses. One of them was at the hands of Jordan Williams on the Contender Series. So Chidi's putting up video game numbers in a very small sample size thus far as he lands 5.4 and only absorbs 1.2 significant strikes a minute, and he's throwing about twice as much volume as his opponents. Landing a knockdown on 3.33% of the significant strikes that he's landing, and both these guys have serious power numbers. 2.7 knockdowns per 15 minutes for Chidi, 1.03 for Gregory, and Gregory has been knocked down once in 5 UFC fights. But it's Chidi who's got the 63% striking defense, 53% striking defense for Gregory Rodriguez. I think Chidi, we got to give him the striking advantage here. He's been a great striker for a long time. Gregory's very well-rounded, but he has a tendency to get into wars and to trust his chin, but he absorbs a lot of significant strikes like we saw in the Jun Yong Park fight, for instance. And I think that if Chidi hits him like Jun Yong was hitting him, that he's going to go down. He's not just going to get hurt. So, and then the grappling is Rodriguez, as he's like a no-gi purple belt world champion, 7 of 13 takedowns. He's out-controlling his opponents at almost a 4-to-1 ratio. Chidi's out-controlling his opponents at like a 2-to-1 ratio. He's not attempting takedowns and showing 72% takedown defense in his own right. The fact that he's doubling his opponent's control time while he's only attempted 1 takedown and his opponents have attempted 11 shows that he's very, very durable and very efficient on the ground. I'd like to see Rodriguez wrestle more, but he seems to be a grappler who's fallen in love with his hands, and I always think that's a bad thing. I think that you got to stick with your base, especially at this level, and I'd like to see Rodriguez wrestle and grapple more and not just worry about landing that big shot, because against Chidi, I think that that's going to be a very bad game plan. The strength of schedule, given to Rodriguez here at the UFC level, the ratios are similar, total fights are similar, but the ratio in the wins much better and a little more experienced competition. So I'll give Gregory Rodriguez the strength of schedule advantage, the grappling advantage. Rodriguez is younger, but it's Chidi who's got a 5-inch reach advantage, the experience advantage, and the striking advantage, and probably the power advantage. And because Gregory's been not wrestling nearly enough, I got to believe that Chidi Njokuani is not only going to win this fight, that he's going to win it inside the distance by knockout, because Rodriguez keeps his chin up in the air. He seems to have fallen in love with his hands, and he absorbs a lot of significant strikes per minute, 5.73 compared to only 1.2 absorbed for Chidi. So I think Chidi wins the minutes on the feet here and wins the moments on the feet. And I think he gets Rodriguez out of there before the bell. I've also got a big bet on this fight, minus 180. Fight doesn't go to decision for 3.6 units at minus 180. Now, it's actually minus 200 now, but at minus 180, This was a bet where we were getting almost an 11% break when we compare the fight doesn't go rates for Rodriguez and Njokuani at the UFC level compared to the 64.29%. So that means that 75% of Chidi and RoboCop's UFC fights have finished inside the distance, but we're only paying 64% at minus 180, and that these guys are finishing at a much better rate than the division, and we're not horribly overpaying for it here at 9.33% because these guys are only finishing inside the distance at 185 pounds in 3-round fights at about a 55% clip, and we're paying 64. So, but definitely love the violence here, and I think the Chidi Njokuani gets it done inside the distance, which brings us to the main event of the evening. And I didn't make a banner for this one, so I'm just going to take the Njokuani banner down, and I'll tell you the lines, which are Corey Sandhagen minus 181 on BetOnline, and Yadong Song plus 156. So 5-round main event here. Song Yadong's first 5-round fight in the UFC. Song's 6 years younger, but it's Corey who's the bigger dude, 3 inches taller, 3 inches of reach, and he's a switch stance fighter fighting out of Elevation Fight Team, while Song Yadong over there at Alpha Male. Song, 8 more professional fights, about 50 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 2 more years as a pro, which is hilarious because he's got a 9-year, 3-month, 6-day career, and he's only 24 years old. So that means Song Yadong took his first professional fight at the tender age of 15. But both of these guys have the same UFC experience. 10 fights for both of these guys, about 100 minutes in the cage for both of these guys. Sandhagen, a 64% finish rate overall, a 58% finish rate for Song, and both of these guys are durable as they've only been finished in 2 of 9 combined losses. The striking I'm giving to Corey. Corey's going to be the much better minute winner on the feet, throwing more diversity of weapons, and he's got sneaky power, but Song Yadong definitely a ton of power in his hands, and he's landing 0.75 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he's getting a knockdown on over 1% of the significant strikes that he's landed. So he's landed 5 knockdowns in 10 fights, while for Corey Sandhagen, it's 4 in 10 fights. So a little bit more powerful has Yadong been, but Corey has been knocked down once, and Song Yadong has never been knocked down, and Song's striking defense just a little bit better than Sandhagen's. Both these guys throw a lot more volume than their opponents do. But I like that significant strike differential sitting at almost 2 for Corey Sandhagen, while Song Yadong is sitting at about 1.14. So both are great strikers, but I think Yadong may be the better moment winner, but I think for sure this is for a 15-minute or 25-minute kickboxing match. I think Sandhagen wins. He uses his range very well. He's got great conditioning. He's constantly switching stances, and he gives you a ton of different looks. So it's hard to download information and get the timing of this dude because he's very unorthodox. And when it comes to the grappling, I think it's pretty even. Corey doesn't wrestle much. He's only got 5 takedowns in 10 fights. He gets about 11% control time. He yields about 15.5% control time, but he's very efficient on the ground. His opponents have attempted more than twice as many takedowns as he has, and they've gotten more than twice as many takedowns as he has, but they're really only out-controlling him by less than 5% of the UFC cage time. Song doesn't wrestle at all. He's a great wrestler, but he just doesn't use it. So I don't think we have to worry about Song wrestling here. And even if he does, he might get Sandhagen down, but he's not going to hold him down. And it's pretty much the same thing for Sandhagen. He might get a takedown here because Song's only got 60% takedown defense, but he's very hard to hold down as well. And he's very efficient on the ground. 28 takedown attempts against Song Yadong, only 7-4, but he's getting the same amount of control time as his opponent. So he's also very hard to take down and hold down. So I see this being a striking match. And because Corey's been in there for 5 rounds with top-notch strikers like Dillashaw and Yan, I like Sandhagen here. It's pretty simple. I mean, I think he wins the minutes on the feet, and I don't have any evidence to suggest that Song Yadong is going to wrestle at all. Corey does not have great takedown defense, but when you've only attempted 7 takedowns in 10 fights, you put on top of that that Song has never fought 5 rounds at the UFC level. And if you're going to push a grappling heavy, wrestling heavy game plan, your first 5-round fight is not a good time to start doing that, because you're just going to gas out even quicker. And Corey's got excellent conditioning. He trains at elevation, and he's got no quit in him. So, I really like Sandhagen a lot in this spot. When we look at the strength of schedule numbers, like the ratio here better for Sandhagen, like the total fights better here for Sandhagen, and the wins are better for Sandhagen, both in ratio and in total fights. So I like Corey Sandhagen to win this fight, and I think he probably wins it by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got a knockout here, because Song has been knocked out once in 5 pro losses, and we got to see how he deals in his first 5-round pace with the pressure, output and pace that Sandhagen puts on. So it's a very interesting fight, but I'm picking Corey Sandhagen to win. We did it, you guys, an hour and 55 minutes. We broke down 14 fights. We did story time with Uncle Weezy. So let's get into the tracked bets that I have for this card. And there are a lot of them. So the first one, Sara McMann's money line, 1 unit at plus 108. It's now available at plus 123 on Bet Online. I would recommend you get on that. I like that line. 1 unit on the Damon Jackson money line at plus 180. I thought that was too wide. I think wherever Sabatini's good, Jackson's good. And Jackson's fought the better level of competition. He's more experienced, and he's just, he's been in there with tougher guys. So I think at plus 180, I think this should be much closer to an evenly priced line. So I like the value on the Damon Jackson money line. I've got the Nascimento Bozer under 2.5 at minus 108 for 2 units. I'm expecting violence in that spot, either a Nascimento submission or a Bozer knockout. I've got the Rodriguez and Njokuani fight doesn't go to decision at minus 180 for 3.6 units. I went heavy on that one because at the time that they released the minus 180 for the fight doesn't go, they had the under 2.5 at minus 240. So it was a huge inversion, clearly a mistake line, had to take advantage of it. And I might arb out if I can get plus 200 on the fight goes. I might arb out of some of it so that I'll only lose a unit if it goes tits up. And then we've got the Jackson Sabatini under 2.5 rounds at plus 205, a really hardy plus number. I showed you how the prop template loves the analytics on that one. And I did that for a half unit. And then we took a very, let's see. I can't even see this, but the Amedovski Pyfer under 1.5 at minus 160. I bet that for 2.4 units to win 1.5. Love violence in the Amedovski Pyfer fight. And then I've also got 0.1 units on the Alen Amedovski first round knockout at plus 2,500. And that's what we've got. I also had, a parlay, 2.6 units at minus 131. Ikram Aliskerov money line parlayed with Daniel Zellhuber. So that one now is a minus 131 de facto bet on Zellhuber for 2.6 units. So that leaves us with one more order of business here. And there are a lot of one-sided fights on this card. I think Nik Motta could potentially shave the ass of Cameron VanCamp for sure. Cameron might be less durable cutting down to 155. Got to see how this dude looks on the scale. But if he looks like garbage on the scales, I'm betting Motta by knockout. But it's not the ass shaving. This is a close fight. I think Robertson gets the job done here. But I told you guys, until 2023, there will be no more women carrying the ass shaving or the weak banner. Can't do it. Ogden Zellhuber. Dude, I think this Zellhuber kid is absolutely special, and I don't think Ogden is that great. Lookboonmee Gomes. Nope. Women's fight. Nope. Women's fight, even though I'm picking Sara McMann. Pyfer's going to shave Amedovski's ass, plain and simple. Probably no cream, probably with a fucking dull razor, and it's going to hurt. But you don't need me to tell you that. Giles Cosce. I like Giles stylistically everywhere in this matchup, but I still think Cosce could easily land a big bomb, not touching it. Jackson Sabatini, I'm on the dog. I think Hernandez might shave Barrios' ass, but I think I'm worried about Barrios' durability. Bozer Nascimento, I think Bozer could could win by ass shaving here. Philly Algio, not an ass shaving pick. Enja Kawani over Rodriguez, yes, possible. Sandhagen Yadong, that's also possible. Who do you guys got, man? DFS by the number saying Cheaty for the ass shaving of the week, shaving Barack Obama's ass, or as my guy Luke from Sparring with Reality calls him, the Brazil version of Barack Obama, or Brizak Obama. Let's see. My man took his career length down to the day. Yeah, you're damn right, Pete. Your Uncle Weezy means business, man. And I have the career length down to the day. And it changes every day. Tomorrow, this will say 9 years, 3 months, and 7 days. That's how precise we are, man. Stop with this gay ass shaving talk, says the wise little goat who's still learning how to spell. Look, I mean, I know it seems like this guy's a complete moron with a 44 IQ, but you know, he could only be 6 or 7 years old. We got to wait for him to learn how to spell. But thanks for joining us, wise little goat. And then we got Victor De Jesus, who was the guy who called it at the beginning of the show. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is not going to be me shaving the ass of this dumbass wise little goat in the chat. It is going to be Daniel Zellhuber shaving the ass of one Trey Ogden, who lost minutes in the striking exchanges to one Jordan Levitt. I think this kid Zellhuber is special. His grappling is good, too. I think that if Trey does get him down, that Zellhuber's not going to be out of his depth there, and that he could either get back to the feet, threaten with submissions, sweep. But I think that whatever Trey has for him on the ground isn't going to be enough for him to win this fight or catch a submission. And Zellhuber is so much better on the feet than this guy. The footwork is great. The power is great. The diversity of weapons is great. And Zellhuber rolls with punches. He's almost impossible to hit square, and he's got a granite chin. And he trains at elevation. So I love the youth. I love the conditioning. I love the, and what I also I like is the fact that Ogden, who is going to have to push a grappling heavy game plan in order to have any chance here, is going to be the worst conditioned athlete here because this kid Zellhuber can go for 10 rounds. So love the Zellhuber pick. I got a 2.6 unit bet on him at minus 131 to close off the second end of the parlay with Ikram Aliskerov. 2 hours and 2 minutes in, and we did it, you guys. I appreciate all of you for hanging out. We got 62 of you in here live. We went through all 14 fights, and my man Victor De Jesus called the ass shaving of the week. It is going to be Daniel Zellhuber to shave the ass of Trey Ogden. We did it. I'm sick. It's time for me to go to bed, you guys. I'm going to go put some timestamps on this video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the story time with Uncle Weezy. I appreciate everybody that donated. If you want to consider joining up on the Patreon, only $5 a month to get the stats that you see here on the screen, $20 a month to get access to the prop template with all the 5-round analytics, all the 3-round analytics, and the ability to be able to do a data-driven analysis here, all on one page with all the analytics that you could possibly want. Please consider joining the Patreon and supporting your Uncle Weezy. I work hard for you guys, and if you support me, it makes it worthwhile. So I appreciate you guys. Have a great night. I'll be back tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio at 6 o'clock Central Time with DFS by the numbers, with Monk and with Gordo to do the DraftKings show. And I'll be right back here tomorrow night, 10:30 Central Time, after the Club and Sub podcast to do Ask Weezy, as long as my voice is still working and I'm not completely under the weather. And then after that, we got a week off. So I won't be seeing you guys after Wednesday. But before that, we get to hang out for one more day. We get to find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this UFC Vegas 60 card. God bless each and every one of you guys. I'm out of here, and I'll see you tomorrow.